Stress and poor sleep often go together, but why and what can you do about it? Stress is really the name for our response to a stressor, something which makes us feel out of control or under threat. So for example, our heart rate and blood pressure increase, glucose is released into the bloodstream, our muscles tense ready for action. This all makes us feel more alert and can make it much harder to sleep through the night. But the same stressor has very different impacts on different people. Take coronavirus, for example. 50% of people said they slept worse in the first lockdown, but 25% of people actually said they slept better. Why? I think about 3 steps that you can influence. Step 1 is about how our brains evaluate the threat. How dangerous does your brain think this stressor is on your personal stressometer? If lockdown created financial insecurity and threatened your livelihood, you probably hit red. But someone else who disliked their job might have been only too delighted to go on furlough. So how do you stay in that green zone? Sometimes simply focusing your attention on the positives in a situation or the things that you can be grateful for can help to dial down your stress evaluation. Other times, you might be able to take action to tackle that stressor head on and reduce it. Step 2 is the psychological resources you have to cope with that stressor, especially social support. We know that people who feel well supported tend to be able to buffer the effects of stress. Sometimes, even if you can't change the stressor itself, simply talking to other people, perhaps getting some emotional or practical support, can help to turn down that stress dial. But what I think is really interesting is that even if you had 2 people with exactly the same stress rating, one of them might be much more likely to have a sleepless night. And this is down to their individual sleep reactivity. Step 3. This is how vulnerable your individual sleep system is to the effects of stress. So how do you know what your sleep reactivity is? Well, ask yourself the following questions. How likely is it that your sleep would be disrupted by an important meeting the next day, after a stressful day at work, after watching a frightening movie or TV show, after an argument, before having to speak in public, or before going on vacation the next day? If you feel that these things would be highly likely to disrupt your sleep, the chances are that your sleep reactivity is on the high side. And if this applies to you, then the chances are that you could benefit from a lot of the techniques of cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia. In particular, I'd recommend that you concentrate on practicing relaxation techniques which are designed to turn off the stress response. So for example, the video on how to relax, part 1, which I published a couple of weeks ago. So anything that you can do to strengthen your natural sleep system and to reduce the stress response should help. So for example, getting up at the same time each day, going outside, getting the body moving, getting plenty of natural daylight, and then protecting time to properly switch off and unwind, have a familiar routine before you get into bed. I'll be back next week with How to Relax Part 2. Thanks for listening and sleep well.